My beloved child, listen closer, because this is not a random moment, and this is not a random message finding you. Heaven has been watching the weight you've been carrying, the silent questions you've been asking, and the delays that made you wonder if God had forgotten your address. Archangel Michael says, God is unfolding a shift that will break every delay and reverse what was working against you, but only if you choose trust right now. Something powerful is moving behind the scenes. What looked like resistance was actually redirection. What felt like a closed door was a setup for a greater entrance. You were never stuck, you were being positioned. And now, the atmosphere around you is changing. Archangel Michael steps forward with urgency in his voice, not fear, not pressure, but truth. He says the delay you hated saved you from an outcome you weren't ready to see. Your forces working against you, yes, unseen resistance, misaligned people, wrong timing, but none of it had the final word. God allowed the pause so he could rewrite the ending. You've been standing at a crossroads longer than you expected. You tried patience. You tried logic. You even tried letting go. But deep inside, there was a quiet ache asking, when? Heaven heard that question, and the answer is unfolding now. But here is the part that matters most. This shift is not automatic. Archangel Michael says the release is ready, the reversal is prepared, the breakthrough is scheduled, but it responds to one decision: trust. Not later, not after proof, not once everything makes sense. Right now. There were moments you almost gave up trusting God because nothing around you reflected his promises. You prayed, yet the delay stayed. You obeyed, yet resistance increased. You stayed quiet, yet confusion grew louder. And the enemy tried to use that season to poison your faith, not by attacking you loudly, but by exhausting you slowly. But exhaustion is not the end. It's the sign that the old season has finished its assignment. Archangel Michael says something that was working against you is losing authority over your life. A pattern is being broken. A cycle is collapsing. A voice that once held influence is being silenced. And the reason it hasn't fully manifested yet is because God is asking you one question: will you trust me even when you can't trace me? This is not about blind faith. This is about surrendered faith. You see, trust is not pretending everything is okay. Trust is choosing God even when the evidence feels incomplete. Trust is saying, I don't see it yet, but I refuse to step out of alignment. And alignment is the key that activates the shift. Archangel Michael reveals that the resistance you faced wasn't because you were doing something wrong. It was because you were getting closer. The closer you got to your calling, the heavier the pushback became. That's how you know you were walking in the right direction. Right now, heaven is rearranging timelines. What should have taken years will be compressed. What was delayed will be accelerated. What was denied will be returned, differently but better. And what was working against you will be forced to serve you instead. But there is a warning spoken gently, not harshly. If you let fear decide for you now, if you step back instead of forward, if you choose control over trust, this shift will wait. Not cancel, but wait. Because God will never force alignment. He honors choice. Archangel Michael says this is why the message feels urgent in your spirit. This is why your heart is stirring. This is why something in you feels both nervous and hopeful at the same time. You are standing at the edge of a reversal. The delay trained you. The resistance refined you. The waiting strengthened you. And now, trust will release you. You don't need all the answers. You don't need to see the full picture. You only need to choose trust in this moment, even if your hands are shaking, even if your voice is quiet, even if your faith feels tired. Because God is not asking for perfection. He's asking for permission. Permission to move. Permission to shift. Permission to fight for you. Archangel Michael stands as a protector in this moment, guarding what is coming, clearing what was blocking, and reminding you that heaven has never been against you. It has been preparing you. Take a breath. Let go of the timeline you created. Release the outcome you tried to control. And choose trust, not because everything is clear, but because God is faithful. Something is already turning in your favor, and this is only the beginning. My precious one, breathe for a moment and let this sink into your spirit. What you are sensing right now is not confusion. It is transition. Archangel Michael says many people misunderstand this phase because it feels uncomfortable, uncertain, and quiet. But heaven often moves silently right before something loud breaks open. What you thought was stagnation was actually separation. God was quietly removing what could not go where He is taking you. There were people, patterns, and pressures attached to your delay. If God had moved you sooner, those things would have followed you into the next season and damaged what He planned to bless. So He slowed the process, not to punish you, but to protect you. Archangel Michael makes this clear. Protection often feels like restriction until you look back and realize what you were spared from. You may have noticed that certain connections faded without explanation. Conversations stopped. Support disappeared. Even your own motivation dipped at times. This was not because you were failing. It was because God was thinning the noise around you. He needed your environment quieter so you could hear His direction clearly. And now that direction is becoming sharper. There is a shift happening in how you see yourself. The old version of you, the one who kept doubting, over-explaining, over-giving, and overthinking, is being retired. You are stepping into a season where discernment replaces desperation, confidence replaces anxiety, and trust replaces the need to control every detail. Archangel Michael says the resistance you felt was never meant to defeat you. It was meant to reveal you. It exposed how strong you've become, how much wisdom you carry, and how deeply rooted your faith actually is. Even on days you felt weak, you still didn't quit. That alone disqualified the enemy from claiming victory over you. But listen carefully. This next movement requires your participation. God has already decided to move, but alignment determines how smoothly you step into it. Alignment looks like obedience even when it's inconvenient. It looks like trusting God's timing even when others seem to pass you by. And it looks like staying faithful when applause is absent. Archangel Michael warns that comparison is the last trap the enemy will try to use. You might look around and wonder why others are progressing while you're still waiting. But what you don't see is their full story, and what they don't see is what God is quietly preparing for you. Your delay is not denial. It is customization. Right now, heaven is recalibrating your path. Opportunities that once slipped through your fingers will return in new forms. Doors that closed without explanation will reopen with clarity. And things you thought were lost forever will come back transformed. This is not coincidence. This is divine restoration. There is also healing happening in you that you didn't even ask for. Old disappointments are losing their grip. Memories that once triggered pain are softening. God is restoring your ability to hope again without fear of being let down. Archangel Michael says this emotional healing is essential, because where God is taking you requires a heart that can receive without suspicion. And yes, the enemy knows this. That's why distractions increased. That's why doubt whispered louder at night. That's why you were tempted to scroll past messages like this and say, maybe later. But something in you chose to stay. Something in you knew this wasn't accidental. If this message is resonating with your spirit, I want you to pause for a second and acknowledge that. Engage with it. Let heaven know you're listening. Like this message so it reaches others who are standing where you once stood. Share it with someone who's been struggling to trust God again. Comment with a word that reflects where you are right now. Faith, waiting, healing, or trust. And if you haven't already, subscribe to this channel so you don't miss the confirmations God keeps sending through these messages. You are not meant to walk this season alone. Archangel Michael says community matters more in transitions than in victories. When you surround yourself with reminders of truth, your faith stays steady even when circumstances shake. And supporting this channel helps keep these messages flowing to the ones who need them most. Now hear this final part carefully. The shift you're entering will not only change your circumstances, it will change how others see you. Some will be surprised. Some will question it. Some will suddenly remember you after ignoring you. Do not chase explanations. Let the fruit speak. God is about to vindicate you without you having to defend yourself. This is the moment where patience turns into momentum, where trust turns into testimony, and where waiting turns into walking forward. Hold on, because what unfolds next will bring clarity to everything you've been questioning. This is where the picture starts to make sense, and you won't want to miss it. My beloved one, there is a sacred weight to this moment, and your spirit knows it. Archangel Michael says what is unfolding now is not just a change in events, but a shift in authority. For a long time, circumstances spoke louder than your faith. Delays dictated your emotions. Resistance shaped your expectations. But that season is ending, because God is restoring your voice in the Spirit. You were never meant to live reacting to pressure. You were meant to move with purpose. And now, heaven is repositioning you from survival mode into alignment mode. This is why your tolerance for certain situations has dropped. This is why excuses no longer satisfy you. This is why your spirit feels restless. You are outgrowing what once contained you. Archangel Michael reveals that God has been watching how you respond when no one applauds, when answers don't come quickly, and when prayers seem unanswered. Those moments were not ignored. They were recorded. Heaven does not forget faithfulness practiced in silence. In fact, silence is often where promotions are decided. There is a reversal forming that will confuse the very forces that tried to delay you. What stood in your way will now step aside. What drained you will no longer have access to you. And what once intimidated you will no longer recognize you, because you are not the same person who entered the waiting season. But here is a truth many don't like to hear. This shift also requires separation, not punishment. Receive. Some people cannot go where you are going because they are attached to who you used to be. If God allowed them to follow you into the next season, they would pull you backward with familiarity. So do not grieve what God removes. Trust His vision over your emotions. Archangel Michael says you are stepping into a phase where obedience must be immediate, not delayed. God will nudge you gently but clearly. He may ask you to speak when you'd rather stay quiet, or stay silent when you want to explain yourself. This is training for discernment. The next level of your life depends on how quickly you respond to divine direction. You may feel unqualified at times. You may wonder if you missed your moment. But hear this clearly. God does not anoint perfection. He anoints availability. And right now, your willingness matters more than your confidence. Step forward even if your voice shakes. Heaven will strengthen what you offer. There is also a healing happening in how you see God. You once viewed Him through disappointment. Now you are learning to see Him through trust. You are realizing that delays were not rejection, and silence was not absence. God was closer than you thought, refining your character so your blessing wouldn't destroy you. Archangel Michael says, what is about to be released into your life requires maturity, not urgency. That is why the process took longer. That is why shortcuts were blocked. That is why impatience never worked. God was protecting both the gift and the giver. Now, something important must be said. The enemy cannot stop what God has approved, but he can try to distract you at the threshold. Overthinking, revisiting old wounds, second-guessing decisions. These are not signs you are failing. They are signs you are close. Do not retreat now. Do not negotiate with fear now. Stand firm. The next season will reward consistency over intensity. You don't need dramatic faith. You need steady trust. Small steps taken daily will unlock doors you once thought required force. God is not asking you to run ahead. He is asking you to walk with Him. Archangel Michael stands as a guardian over this transition, ensuring that what comes next arrives with clarity and peace, not chaos. And he says this clearly: what is unfolding will not only bless you, it will answer prayers you didn't even know how to pray. You are not late. You are not forgotten. You are not behind. You are aligned. Type "I receive the shift" in the comments if this message is speaking directly to your spirit. Blessing code 847 has just been released. As this shift unfolds, hear this invitation clearly and without hesitation. I am speaking to those whose hearts are burning to help God's light reach others standing in delay and confusion. When you give through Super Thanks, membership, or PayPal, with the links placed in the description, you are sowing seed into living soil, allowing this message to travel where weary souls are waiting. The Lord says, "What you place in my hands, I will multiply and return, pressed down and overflowing." This is not a donation. This is obedience in motion, a prophetic response to what you just received. I bless every giver now, that rivers of provision open over your household and peace guards your decisions. Do it now, without hesitation, and let heaven mark your obedience. My dear one, there is a deeper layer to what God is doing now, and Archangel Michael says it is important you understand this so you do not misinterpret the silence that may still surround you. Just because everything has not moved outwardly yet does not mean the shift has paused. Some of the most powerful changes happen internally first, where no one can applaud, criticize, or interfere. God is strengthening your inner foundation before He allows external acceleration. You are learning how to stand without leaning on reassurance. You are learning how to trust without constant confirmation. This is not abandonment. This is empowerment. Archangel Michael explains that God is teaching you how to walk with spiritual authority instead of emotional dependency. Where you are going, you cannot rely on people constantly validating you. You must know who you are, even when the room is silent. There was a time when delays made you anxious. Now, delays no longer shake you the same way. That is growth. There was a time when unanswered prayers felt personal. Now, you are beginning to understand that timing is not punishment. It is precision. Heaven measures differently than humans do. God does not rush what He intends to last. Archangel Michael reveals that one reason this season feels intense is because your discernment is sharpening. You are sensing things before they happen. You are noticing energy shifts in conversations. You are picking up when something is misaligned even if it looks good on the surface. The sensitivity is not weakness. It is preparation. God is tuning your spiritual hearing. However, with greater discernment comes a test of restraint. You will see things others don't. You will know things you cannot yet explain. and you must resist the urge to correct, expose, or rush outcomes. Wisdom knows when to speak and when to wait. Archangel Michael warns that premature reactions can delay what patience would accelerate. You may feel a growing distance between you and certain people, even without conflict. This is not bitterness. This is alignment adjusting. God is narrowing your circle not to isolate you, but to protect your focus. Too many voices dilute clarity. Too many opinions weaken obedience. In this season, fewer voices mean stronger direction. There is also a divine exchange happening. God is removing the need to be understood by everyone and replacing it with peace. You are learning that being misunderstood is not failure. Jesus himself was misunderstood, yet perfectly aligned. When God approves you, human approval becomes optional. Archangel Michael says you are stepping into a phase where your decisions will carry more weight. Small choices will have bigger consequences. This is why God is slowing you down emotionally even while speeding things up spiritually. He wants you intentional, not impulsive. Calm, not reactive. You might notice that old temptations no longer appeal to you. Old habits feel empty. Old coping mechanisms feel ineffective. That is because God is cutting off substitutes. He does not want you numbing discomfort. He wants you walking through it with Him. Healing that is avoided becomes a cycle. Healing that is faced becomes freedom. There is a quiet confidence forming in you. Not arrogance, not pride, but assurance. You no longer feel the need to explain your journey. You no longer chase closure. You no longer beg for clarity from people who cannot give it. That is because clarity is coming directly from God now. Archangel Michael says this is the stage where many people turn back because it feels lonely. But loneliness here is temporary, and purpose is permanent. If you stay faithful through this narrowing, God will expand your influence later. If you remain obedient in private, He will honor you publicly in the right season. Do not confuse calm with inactivity. Heaven is active even when your environment looks still. Angels are repositioning circumstances. God is arranging meetings, opportunities, and moments that will make sense later. What feels delayed is actually being synchronized. One important instruction is released now. Guard your peace fiercely. Do not engage every argument. Do not revisit every memory. Do not reopen every door just to prove you've changed. Silence is sometimes the loudest testimony. Let your consistency speak. Archangel Michael says the trust you chose earlier is now being tested at a deeper level. Not to break you, to anchor you. Shallow trust collapses under pressure. Rooted trust holds firm through uncertainty. This is the kind of trust God is building in you now. Soon, very soon, movement will follow this stillness. But when it does, it will feel natural, not forced. Smooth and not chaotic. Clear, not confusing. You will recognize it by the peace that accompanies it. Until then, stay grounded. Stay faithful. Stay listening. Because the shift is not only happening around you, it is happening within you. My cherished one, Archangel Michael says there is a sacred unveiling happening now, and it concerns how you perceive strength. For a long time, you believed strength meant holding on, pushing through, and proving yourself. But God is redefining strength in this season. Strength now looks like surrender without fear. It looks like obedience without negotiation. It looks like trusting God even when you finally have the ability to walk away. You are standing at a threshold where old survival instincts no longer serve you. What once protected you is now limiting you. God is gently asking you to loosen your grip, not because He wants to take something from you, but because he wants to place something greater into your hands. You cannot carry the new while clinging tightly to the old. Archangel Michael reveals that some of your inner battles were never about the external delay. They were about identity. You questioned your worth when things didn't move. You questioned your calling when results were slow. You questioned God's favor when doors stayed shut. But those questions were not sins. They were invitations. Invitations to discover that your value was never tied to timing. Heaven is now restoring what delay tried to distort. You are beginning to see yourself clearly again, not as someone behind, but as someone chosen. Not as someone overlooked, but as someone preserved. God hid you not because you were unimportant, but because what He placed inside you needed protection. There is a purification happening in your desires. Things you once begged for no longer excite you the same way. This is not loss. It is alignment. God is upgrading your appetite so you stop settling for what looks good but cannot sustain you. You are learning to want what wants you back. Archangel Michael says this season is also exposing motives, yours and others. You are seeing clearly who celebrates your growth and who tolerates it, who supports your obedience and who benefits from your hesitation. This clarity may sting, but it is necessary. God cannot elevate you while you are emotionally anchored to people who are comfortable with you staying small. You might feel moments of grief for versions of life you thought would happen by now. That grief is not weakness. It is release. You are letting go of imagined timelines to embrace divine ones. And while it hurts to release expectations, it heals to receive truth. There is also a recalibration of how you hear God. Before, you needed signs. Now, you recognize His voice through peace. Before, you needed urgency. Now, you understand rhythm. God is teaching you discernment that doesn't rely on chaos to feel spiritual. Stillness is becoming familiar, not frightening. Archangel Michael warns against rushing to fill space. Not every silence needs an answer. Not every gap needs activity. Some spaces are holy. They are designed for listening, not doing. If you rush, you may interrupt what God is finishing. You are also being prepared for visibility. The waiting season trained your character so exposure will not corrupt you. God is building humility into your confidence so success does not steal your compassion. This is why the process mattered so much. There will soon be moments when others suddenly recognize your value. They may praise what they once ignored. Resist bitterness. Vindication belongs to God. Let grace be your response, not because they deserve it, but because you are free. Archangel Michael says one of the greatest signs that this shift is real is your growing peace with uncertainty. You no longer panic when you don't know the full plan. You trust that clarity will arrive when obedience requires it. That is mature faith. Be mindful in this season not to self-sabotage through overanalysis. You don't need to dissect every emotion. Feel it, give it to God, and keep moving. Healing is happening even when you don't understand how. There is also a call to consistency. Small acts done faithfully will matter more than grand gestures done occasionally. God is watching how you steward the quiet moments, how you speak when no one hears, how you choose when no one sees. These moments are shaping your future authority. Archangel Michael stands firm in this declaration. You are not circling the same lesson anymore. You are graduating. What felt repetitive was actually reinforcement. God was strengthening your foundation so the next level would not collapse under pressure. Soon, decisions will come more easily. Doors will open with less resistance. Conversations will shift. And you will look back and realize that this inner transformation was the true breakthrough. Stay steady. Stay humble. Stay trusting. Because what God is building in you right now will carry you through everything that comes next. And this time, you will walk forward without fear. My beloved child, Archangel Michael says this stage of your journey is about discernment becoming discipline. You are no longer just sensing what is right. You are being trained to choose it consistently. In earlier seasons, God corrected you after missteps. Now, He is guiding you before them. That is not restriction, that is intimacy. It means heaven trusts you with foresight. You may notice that your reactions are changing. Situations that once triggered you now pause you. Words that once cut deep now pass without lodging in your spirit. This is not numbness. This is authority. God is teaching you how to govern your inner world so external chaos cannot rule you. When peace becomes your default, confusion loses its power. Archangel Michael reveals that some doors are opening quietly, not with announcements, not with applause, but with alignment. You are being invited into rooms that require wisdom more than noise. These opportunities will test your patience because they won't always look dramatic, but subtle doors often lead to lasting impact. There is also a refinement happening in your prayers. You are no longer begging God to fix everything. You are partnering with Him to steward what He reveals. Your prayers are becoming clearer, calmer, and more confident. You are learning that prayer is not pressure, it is communion. Be aware that this season will challenge your boundaries. Old connections may attempt to re-enter your life with familiar language and revised promises. Archangel Michael warns you not to confuse nostalgia with calling. Just because something feels comfortable does not mean it is a line. You are allowed to say no without explaining yourself. God is also teaching you to wait without worry. Waiting used to feel like wasted time. Now it feels like preparation. You are learning to rest without guilt, to pause without fear of falling behind. This is crucial because burnout would have robbed you of joy in the next season. God is protecting your future by teaching you how to pace yourself now. There may be moments when you feel unseen again. Do not panic. Hidden seasons are not punishment. They are preservation. When God hides you, He shields you from premature exposure. Archangel Michael says what is being built in private will soon require public strength. You are also becoming more selective with your energy. You no longer chase conversations that drain you. You no longer explain yourself to people committed to misunderstanding you. This is wisdom, not withdrawal. God is teaching you stewardship over your emotional resources. One important shift is happening in how you view success. Before, success meant arrival. Now, it means alignment. You are no longer obsessed with outcomes. You are focused on obedience. Ironically, this is when outcomes begin to follow you naturally. Archangel Michael says there will be a moment soon when a decision you once feared will feel obvious. What confused you will clarify. What felt risky will feel right. This is not coincidence. This is the reward of staying faithful when clarity was absent. Be careful not to minimize how far you've come. The enemy loves to whisper, "You should be further by now." That voice is not truth. Growth that lasts is often invisible while it's forming. Roots grow underground before fruit appears above. If these words are resonating, this is a good moment to engage. Like this message so it can reach someone else who is standing in the same quiet stretch you once stood in. Share it with a friend who needs reassurance that waiting is not failure. Leave a comment with a word that reflects your current season: peace, alignment, patience, or trust. And if this channel has been a consistent source of confirmation for you, subscribe so you stay connected to what God is releasing here. Your engagement helps strengthen this space and keep these messages flowing. Archangel Michael emphasizes that unity matters. When believers gather around truth, confusion weakens. When messages like this spread, hope multiplies. You are not just receiving. You are participating in something larger than yourself. Now listen closely to this final instruction. Do not rush the reveal. Let God unveil things in His order. Premature exposure can damage what timing would perfect. Trust that what is meant for you will not miss you, and what misses you was never meant to stay. You are standing in a sacred in-between, no longer who you were, not yet fully where you're going. This space is holy. Do not despise it. Hold steady. Keep listening. Because what comes next will connect the dots in a way you didn't expect, and you'll be grateful you stayed attentive long enough to see it unfold. My precious one, Archangel Michael says you are now entering a phase where clarity and courage must walk together. Up to this point, God hath been shaping your inner world, strengthening your discernment, and teaching you how to trust without visible proof. Now, that inner work is beginning to demand outward expression. Not loud, not rushed, but intentional. You may feel a gentle pressure to move differently than before, to speak with more honesty, to choose with more firmness, to walk away from things you once tolerated. This pressure is not anxiety, it is alignment asserting itself. When your spirit grows, it can no longer remain comfortable in places that contradict truth. There is a divine boldness rising in you. Not arrogance, not aggression, but a settled confidence that no longer seeks permission to be obedient. Archangel Michael says this is the courage that comes from knowing God is backing you. When heaven stands behind a decision, fear loses its grip on the outcome. You are also learning that obedience does not always feel safe at first. Sometimes it feels risky, lonely, or misunderstood. But safety has never been the measure of calling. Faithfulness has. God does not promise comfort in every step, but He does promise presence in every one. There may be a moment soon when you are asked to choose between familiarity and faith. The familiar will offer predictability. Faith will offer growth. The familiar will feel easier. Faith will feel stretching. Archangel Michael urges you not to confuse ease with peace. Peace often comes after obedience, not before it. You are also becoming more aware of your spiritual authority. Not authority over others, authority over yourself. You are realizing you do not have to react to every provocation. You do not have to prove every point. You do not have to defend your path to those who are committed to misunderstanding it. Silence, when guided by wisdom, becomes a powerful statement. God is also exposing subtle distractions, not obvious sins, but small compromises, overcommitment, emotional entanglements, mental noise. These things are not evil, but they are expensive. They cost you focus, and focus is required where you are going. Archangel Michael says you are being trained to recognize what drains you versus what fuels you. This awareness will protect you in the next season, where demands may increase. God is teaching you now how to say yes selectively, so you do not say yes destructively later. You may notice a growing impatience with superficial conversations and shallow pursuits. This does not mean you are becoming cold. It means your appetite is changing. You crave depth because God is calling you deeper. Surface level living no longer satisfies the spirit that has tasted alignment. There is also a refining of your voice. You are learning when to speak and how to speak. Words carry weight in the next season. Careless speech could close doors. Intentional speech will open them. Archangel Michael emphasizes that wisdom will guard your influence. Do not be surprised if old fears attempt one final resurgence. Fear often makes noise before losing power. Doubt may question your readiness. Insecurity may whisper about your past. But these voices are echoes, not commands. They are reminders of where you came from, not indicators of where you are going. God is also teaching you to receive without guilt. Blessings, support, recognition, these may soon come more freely. Do not shrink when they arrive. Humility does not mean refusal. It means gratitude. Receive what God sends without apologizing for it. Archangel Michael says one of the greatest tests in this phase is patience with people who are slower to change than you. Do not rush them. Do not resent them. Your growth does not require their speed. Everyone moves according to their own season. Compassion will keep your heart soft as your boundaries stay firm. You are also being reminded that obedience is not about perfection. You will still learn. You will still adjust. God is not expecting flawlessness. He is expecting faithfulness. Correction will come if needed, but condemnation will not. You are led and not threatened. This is also a season of confirmation. Small affirmations will appear. Conversations will align. Messages will resonate. Not to make you dependent on signs, but to reassure you that you are walking correctly. God is kind like that. He strengthens before stretching. Archangel Michael declares that you are closer than you think. A distance between preparation and manifestation is shortening. What once felt far away is now within reach. Do not abandon consistency now. The quiet obedience you practice today is building tomorrow's testimony. Stay anchored. Stay attentive. Stay courageous. Because the version of you that is emerging now will not recognize the limitations that once defined you. And when the next door opens, you will walk through it not as someone desperate for change, but as someone ready to steward it. My beloved one, Archangel Michael says this moment marks a quiet crossing, a spiritual threshold that many sense but few recognize correctly. You are not stepping into chaos. You are stepping into confirmation. The reason things feel tender right now is because old layers are falling away. God is not dismantling you. He is unveiling you. There is a difference between pressure that crushes and pressure that polishes. What you are experiencing now is refinement, not resistance. Heaven is fine-tuning your responses, your timing, and your posture. This is the stage where God shifts you from preparation into positioning. You are being placed where your obedience will soon matter more than your effort. You may notice that your tolerance for compromise has dropped sharply. What once felt harmless now feels heavy. What once felt exciting now feels distracting. This is not boredom. It is discernment. Archangel Michael says your spirit is rejecting what your future cannot carry. God is also strengthening your ability to wait without wavering. Waiting no longer feels like standing still. It feels like standing ready. You are alert, not anxious. Expectant, not desperate. This posture is powerful because it keeps you aligned even when the timeline remains hidden. There is a new kind of peace forming in you. Not the peace that comes from having answers, but the peace that comes from trusting the one who does. You are learning that clarity is not always a prerequisite for obedience. Sometimes obedience itself unlocks clarity. Archangel Michael reveals that the delay you endured rewired your faith. You no longer believe God only when things work out. You believe Him because of who He is. That kind of faith cannot be shaken by circumstances, opinions, or temporary setbacks. He is anchored. Be aware that in this season, distractions may appear disguised as opportunities. Not everything that opens is meant for you. Some doors are tests, not invitations. Wisdom will help you discern what aligns with your assignment and what simply appeals to your ego or impatience. You are also learning to trust your spiritual instincts. That quiet nudge, that internal check, that sense of timing. These are not imagination, they are guidance. God speaks softly to those who listen consistently. Archangel Michael says your next steps will not require force. They will require focus. Striving will not accelerate this season. Surrender will. When you stop trying to control the outcome, God moves freely. There is a release of courage happening now. Not the loud kind, but the settled kind. The courage to say no without guilt. The courage to wait without panic. The courage to move when it is time, even if you are the only one who understands why. You may soon notice a shift in how others respond to you. Some will feel drawn to your peace. Others will feel uncomfortable around it. Do not adjust yourself to manage their reactions. Your assignment is not to be understood by everyone. It is to remain aligned with God. Archangel Michael emphasizes that this is not the season to look back. Reflection can be healthy, but dwelling can be dangerous. What God is doing now requires forward vision. The past has already taught you what it needed to teach. You are being trusted with more influence, even if it doesn't look like it yet. Influence begins in the unseen. How you carry yourself now will determine how you steward what comes later. God is watching your consistency, not your speed. There is also a call to gratitude in this phase. Not forced gratitude, but grounded gratitude. Gratitude that says, I don't see everything yet, but I recognize how far I've come. Gratitude keeps your heart soft and your faith receptive. Archangel Michael says something you once prayed for quietly is closer than you think. He is forming, not fading. Do not sabotage anticipation with fear. Hope is not foolish here, it is appropriate. You are standing in a holy moment where trust has matured into readiness. You are not waiting for permission anymore. You are waiting for timing. And timing is aligning. Type I stand aligned in the comments if this message confirms what God has been speaking to you. Blessing code 2194 has just been released. Now hear this clearly, because this invitation flows directly from what your spirit just received. I am speaking to those who feel the weight of this calling and the urgency of this hour. When you give through Super Thanks, membership, or PayPal, with the links waiting in the description, you are not supporting a channel. You are fueling a mission that reaches weary hearts across the world. The Lord declares, as you sow into my work, I will open the windows of heaven and pour out what you cannot contain. This is a prophetic act, not a casual gesture, and heaven responds to obedience given without delay. I speak blessing over every giver now, clarity in decisions, peace in your home, and increase that follows you. Act now, and let your obedience echo further than your voice ever could. My beloved one, Archangel Michael says you are now standing in a season where trust is no longer just a choice. It is becoming your nature. Earlier, you had to remind yourself to trust. You had to fight doubt intentionally. Now, trust is settling deeper, shaping how you think, respond, and decide. This is a sign of spiritual maturity. Faith is no longer something you switch on during crisis. It is becoming the lens through which you live. You may notice that situations which once would have shaken you now barely disturb your inner peace. This is not because life has become easier, but because you have become steadier. God has anchored you. When storms come now, they no longer threaten your identity. They only confirm your foundation. Archangel Michael reveals that God is teaching you how to move without needing reassurance at every step. Before, you looked for confirmation in signs, people, or outcomes. Now, confirmation comes from alignment. When something is right, your spirit knows. When something is wrong, your peace withdraws. This discernment is a gift, and it must be honored. There is also a quiet strengthening of your patience, not passive waiting but confident endurance. You are no longer counting days anxiously. You are counting on God faithfully. This shift protects you from disappointment, because your hope is no longer tied to deadlines but to divine character. You may feel moments of emotional fatigue, not because you are weak, but because you have been carrying depth. Deep seasons require deep rest. Archangel Michael encourages you not to judge yourself harshly for needing pauses. Rest is not retreat. It is reinforcement. Even warriors must recover between battles. God is also refining how you see progress. Progress is no longer measured only by visible change, but by internal stability. You are learning that not reacting is sometimes greater progress than reacting well. Silence, restraint, and peace are signs of strength, not avoidance. Be aware that as you grow more secure, some people may misinterpret your calm as distance or pride. Do not internalize their confusion. Your growth does not require their understanding. God is teaching you how to remain loving without being available to every demand. Archangel Michael says this season is also about stewardship of vision. God may be giving you glimpses of what's ahead, not full blueprints, but impressions. Do not rush to explain or execute everything you see. Some visions are meant to mature in silence. Premature exposure can invite unnecessary resistance. There is a sacred confidence developing in you. You no longer feel the need to rush conversations or prove your intentions. You trust that truth will surface naturally. This confidence is not loud, but it is unshakable. You are also learning the power of obedience without emotion. Before, you needed to feel inspired to move. Now, you move because you are aligned. Feelings come and go, but obedience builds continuity. God is pleased with this steadiness. Archangel Michael warns gently against revisiting old doubts. The enemy often tries to recycle past fears when he sees progress. Thoughts like, what if it doesn't work? Or what if I'm wrong? May surface. These are not signals to stop. They are reminders of how far you've come. You no longer live there. God is also increasing your capacity. Capacity to hold responsibility without pressure. Capacity to bless without depletion. Capacity to lead without control. This expansion is happening quietly, but it will soon be evident in how much you can handle with grace. There is also a renewed sensitivity to God's presence. You may notice moments where His nearness feels tangible, in stillness, in worship, in reflection. These moments are not random. They are reassurance. God is reminding you that you are not walking alone, even when the path feels quiet. Archangel Michael says the next season will require you to trust God with people's reactions. Not everyone will celebrate your growth. Some will question it. Some will distance themselves. Let them. God is not calling you to manage perceptions. He is calling you to maintain alignment. You are also learning to forgive without reopening doors. Forgiveness does not mean access. Healing does not mean reunion. Wisdom teaches you how to release bitterness without restoring patterns that God has already closed. This is a season of emotional sobriety. You are less reactive, more reflective. Less impulsive, more intentional. This steadiness will serve you well when momentum increases, because speed without stability leads to collapse. Archangel Michael declares that you are not drifting. You are being carried. Even when you cannot see movement, trust that God is orchestrating details beyond your awareness. Nothing is wasted. Nothing is late. Remain grounded. Remain faithful. Remain open, because the trust you chose earlier is now shaping a life that will soon reflect everything God promised. Not rushed, not forced, but perfectly timed. My beloved child, Archangel Michael says this phase you are in is where momentum quietly begins to form beneath obedience. What once felt like standing still is now becoming forward movement, even if your eyes cannot yet measure the distance. God is teaching you how to recognize progress by peace rather than pressure. When something is from Him, it carries weight without chaos. You may sense a growing readiness in your spirit. Not impatience, readiness. It feels like knowing you could move if asked, even if you're not rushing to do so. This is important. God prepares you internally before He shifts you externally. Readiness ensures that when opportunity appears, you don't panic, hesitate, or sabotage it. Archangel Michael reveals that one reason God delayed certain breakthroughs was to heal how you respond to success. If success had come earlier, it might have fed insecurity or fear. Now, success will meet stability. You won't cling to it. You won't fear losing it. You will steward it. There is also a shift in how you process disappointment. It no longer defines you. It informs you, then releases you. This emotional maturity is rare, and heaven values it deeply. God is entrusting you with more because you are no longer ruled by extremes. Be mindful in this season not to underestimate quiet obedience. Small choices matter greatly now. Who you listen to, how you speak to yourself, what you allow to influence your thinking. These subtle decisions are shaping your future environment. Archangel Michael says the enemy's strategy has shifted. Since distraction didn't work and fear lost its grip, now the enemy attempts subtle delay through comfort. Comfort without calling. Familiar routines without growth. This is why discernment is crucial. Not everything peaceful is purposeful. Ask God to show you the difference. You may soon be presented with options that look good on the surface, but pull you slightly out of alignment. They won't be obvious traps. They will be almost right. This is where spiritual maturity matters most. Partial obedience can delay full manifestation. God is also strengthening your voice. When you speak now, your words carry more clarity. Less emotion, more authority. Less explanation, more truth. This does not mean you have become cold. It means you have become grounded. Archangel Michael encourages you not to rush conversations that require wisdom. Timing matters. Saying the right thing at the wrong time can be as damaging as saying the wrong thing altogether. Silence, when led by God, is never passive. You are also learning how to celebrate progress without boasting and acknowledge growth without pride. This balance protects you. Gratitude keeps your heart open, while humility keeps your path clear. There may be moments when you feel tempted to look back and measure yourself against old versions of you. Resist that. You are not meant to relive the past to validate the present. Growth speaks for itself. You don't owe anyone a comparison. Archangel Michael says this is also a season where God is pruning time wasters. You are becoming more intentional with how you spend your hours. Less scrolling, less explaining, less emotional labor, more presence, more clarity, more rest. This shift will create space for what is coming. If this message is resonating deeply with you, this is a moment to engage intentionally. Like this message so it continues to reach those who need confirmation in their waiting. Share it with someone who is questioning whether quiet progress still counts. Leave a comment with a word that captures your current posture: ready, steady, trusting, or aligned. And if you haven't yet, subscribe to this channel so you remain connected to these messages as they unfold. Your support helps strengthen this space and extend its reach. Archangel Michael reminds you that staying connected to truth matters, especially as momentum builds. Isolation weakens discernment, but alignment strengthens it. What you feed your spirit now will shape how you handle what comes next. Here is the retention you need to hear gently. Stay with this message, because what unfolds next will reveal why everything had to happen in this order. The clarity coming will settle questions you've carried quietly for a long time. God is not testing your patience anymore. He is rewarding your consistency. The seeds you planted in silence are beginning to push through the soil. You may not see the full harvest yet, but the ground is no longer empty. Archangel Michael declares that acceleration is near, not frantic, not overwhelming, but ordered. You will not miss it. You will recognize it by peace, confirmation, and alignment all arriving together. Do not rush ahead. Do not fall back. Stay present, because the season you are stepping into will require everything you have learned here, and you will be grateful you didn't walk away before the picture became clear. My beloved one, Archangel Michael says you are now approaching a moment where preparation quietly meets promise. This is not the loud breakthrough many imagine, but the steady unveiling of what God has been arranging all along. What you once thought would arrive suddenly is coming with intention, order, and peace. And that is how you will know it is truly from God. There is a settling happening in your spirit. Not resignation, but resolve. You are no longer fighting the process. You are cooperating with it. This shift changes everything. When you stop resisting the timing begins to serve you. God does not move faster when you push Him. He moves freer when you trust Him. Archangel Michael reveals that your faith has crossed a threshold. Earlier, faith helped you survive. Now, faith is teaching you how to steward. Survival seasons teach endurance. Stewardship seasons teach responsibility. What God is bringing next will require wisdom, not desperation. You are being trained to handle answers without panic. You may notice that your prayers are quieter now, less frantic, less repetitive. This does not mean you care less. It means you trust more. Silence before God has become comfortable because you know He is listening even when you are not speaking. This intimacy is precious. There is also a deeper awareness of God's presence in ordinary moments. You no longer expect Him only in big events. You sense Him in stillness, in routine, in obedience. This awareness keeps you grounded and protects you from chasing dramatic signs instead of lasting truth. Archangel Michael says this is also a season where God is resolving unfinished business in your heart. Not reopening wounds, but closing them properly. Old disappointments no longer sting the same way. Old regrets no longer control your decisions. You are healing forward, not backward. You may still face uncertainty, but it no longer paralyzes you. Uncertainty has become a space where trust operates, not a place where fear dominates. This emotional stability is essential for what is ahead. God is not just answering prayers, He is building character that can hold the answers. Be mindful now of how you interpret delays. Not every pause is resistance. Some pauses are alignment checks. God may slow you briefly to ensure everything moves together in harmony. Rushing ahead would only create imbalance later. Archangel Michael encourages you to guard against subtle impatience. Not the obvious kind, but the quiet restlessness that whispers, "It should have happened by now." When that thought arises, meet it with gratitude for how far you've come. Gratitude neutralizes impatience. There is also an increase in responsibility approaching. Not burden, but influence. God entrusts influence to those who can remain humble when unseen. You have proven faithful in obscurity. That faithfulness is now being honored. You might notice new ideas, visions, or desires surfacing. Do not dismiss them, but also do not rush to act on all of them at once. Discernment will help you prioritize. Some ideas are seeds for later, not instructions for now. Archangel Michael says your emotional reactions are becoming more measured. You no longer swing between extremes. This balance will protect you in seasons of increase, where highs and lows can come quickly. Stability is your strength. There is also a shift in how you relate to others. You are more compassionate, but less entangled. You can care without caring, love without losing yourself. This is healthy maturity, not distance. Do not be surprised if people from your past resurface unexpectedly. Some will come to reconnect. Others will come to test boundaries. You are not required to reopen doors God has closed. Closure does not require access. Archangel Michael emphasizes that obedience will soon feel lighter. What once required effort will begin to flow naturally. This is the reward of alignment. When you walk in rhythm with God, resistance decreases. You are also learning to trust yourself again. Not in pride, but in partnership with God. You recognize His guidance in your decisions. You no longer doubt every instinct. This confidence has been rebuilt carefully and intentionally. This is a season of quiet readiness. Not waiting with anxiety, but standing with expectation. You are dressed spiritually, so to speak, ready to move when prompted, but content to stand until then. Archangel Michael declares that what comes next will not overwhelm you. It will match your capacity. God does not flood what He does not fortify. The growth you experienced was necessary so the blessing would not feel like pressure. Remain steady now. Remain grateful. Remain attentive. Because the final unfolding will not feel like chaos. It will feel like recognition. As if your spirit says, yes, this is it. And when that moment arrives, you will know with certainty that nothing was wasted, nothing was late, and trust truly was the key that unlocked everything. My beloved child, Archangel Michael says this is the moment where everything quietly comes together. Not with noise, not with chaos, but with clarity. What once felt scattered now begins to align. What once felt confusing now settles into understanding. This is the fruit of the trust you chose when nothing made sense. You are not arriving at an ending. You are stepping into a beginning that was carefully prepared. God was never delaying you without purpose. He was shaping your discernment, strengthening your spirit, and protecting your future from collapse. What you are about to walk into required a version of you that did not exist before the waiting. Now that version exists. You no longer beg for answers. You listen. You no longer chase validation. You rest. You no longer panic at silence. You discern. This is evidence of transformation. Archangel Michael declares that the resistance that once followed you has lost its authority. What worked against you has been dismantled at the root. Delays no longer define your pace. Fear no longer controls your decisions. Confusion no longer dictates your direction. You are moving forward with spiritual clarity and emotional stability. There will be people who notice the change but cannot explain it. They may see you seem calmer, stronger, different. They are right. But the difference is not cosmetic. It is foundational. God rebuilt you from the inside out so that when the blessing arrives, it does not shake you, it strengthens you. What God is releasing now will not require force. It will respond to alignment. You will not have to beg doors to open. You will recognize the right ones because they open with peace. The next steps will feel natural, not rushed. Confirmed, not pressured. Archangel Michael says this is where many people miss their moment, not because God doesn't move, but because they fail to recognize movement when it doesn't look dramatic. Pay attention to subtle confirmations. Pay attention to repeated peace. Pay attention to doors opening without struggle. God often moves quietly when He is confident in your trust. You are also being reminded that increase does not mean complication. God's blessings add clarity, not confusion. If something pulls you away from peace, it is not from Him, no matter how attractive it looks. This final season of preparation has anchored your faith so deeply that storms no longer intimidate you. You know where to stand. You know who to trust. You know when to wait and when to move. This wisdom is a reward. Archangel Michael speaks this clearly. You will not repeat the old cycle. The lessons were learned. The patterns were broken. The door behind you has closed completely. You are not going back, not emotionally, not spiritually, not mentally. What lies ahead will require courage but not fear, responsibility but not pressure, faith but not exhaustion. God is not handing you a burden. He is handing you a stewardship that fits your growth. You may still feel moments of awe, even disbelief, at how things begin to shift. Let gratitude be your response. Gratitude keeps your heart aligned. Gratitude keeps your spirit receptive. Gratitude protects you from pride and fear equally. Archangel Michael says your obedience has echoed in heaven. Choices you made privately moved things publicly. Tears you cried quietly shaped outcomes you will soon see openly. Heaven has not ignored a single moment of faith. Now receive this final instruction gently. Remain teachable. Growth does not end when the blessing arrives. It evolves. Stay listening. Stay grounded. Stay humble. God's presence will continue to guide you step by step. You are not stepping into chaos. You are stepping into order. You are not stepping into loss. You are stepping into restoration. Trust with the key. And you chose it. Type "I walk in divine trust" in the comments if you receive this word with faith. Blessing code 6391 has just been released. And now, as this message comes to rest in your spirit, hear this invitation clearly and without hesitation. I am speaking to those whom God is stirring to help this prophetic word reach souls still trapped in delay and confusion. When you give through Super Thanks, become a member, or sow through PayPal using the links in the description, you are not funding a video. You are releasing light into dark places. The Lord says, "Those who sow into my work will never lack, for I will open rivers where there were dry places." This is a prophetic response, an act of obedience tied to trust, and heaven responds swiftly to willing hearts. I bless every giver now with increase, protection, and peace that guards every decision. Act now. Obey promptly, and let your seed speak in places your voice may never reach.